This is Democracy Watch. Mark, the highly anticipated House Ethics Committee report against Matt Gaetz has been released. It found substantial evidence that Gaetz had sex with a 17-year-old in 2017 in violation of Florida's statutory rape law. Why do you think the DOJ refused to indict this case, given the findings of the House Ethics Committee? And given this report's release now, is there a possibility that some prosecutor could decide to indict?
So, first of all, we now understand why Matt Gaetz was so desperate to not have this report come out. And, by the way, I hope we're going to be able to double back and talk about the shamelessness of the Republicans who just a few weeks ago were trying to keep it from coming out. But to answer your question directly, I think that what DOJ would say is that they have to prove a case beyond a reasonable doubt. And, it's not enough for them to rely on what the House Ethics Committee says or what they think happened. They need to be able to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. They may have also had witnesses here who were concerned about testifying publicly, right? Because, when you indict a case, eventually those witnesses, their testimony and everything is going to come out as they are. So they may have had some reluctant witnesses. But I'd also say, and obviously this is some speculation here, but, how many episodes have you and I done now where we ask, shouldn't DOJ have done something, right? Fill in more aggressive, fill in Republican, right? I mean, the irony of Donald Trump and the Republicans saying that the Department of Justice has been weaponized against Donald Trump and the Republicans is kind of insane on days like this, where you see this kind of report come out, and yet DOJ did not, in fact, bring a case.
Right. And knowing full well that if the table was returned, if Republicans had control of the DOJ, they would try to indict something that is 1/10 of as serious as this is. But here we are. I want to talk about some practical barriers to the possibility of seeing a future indictment on this. First of all, this happened in 2017. So has the statute of limitations run out on federal or state prosecution? And beyond that, the DOJ is soon falling into the hands of Trump's new attorney general, which almost was Matt Gaetz himself. So presumably we shouldn't expect that body to prosecute. And I'm also not sure that Ron DeSantis is going to direct any state attorneys to investigate this darling of the Republican Party either. So who could indict him, given the unwillingness of all these Republicans to actually do anything?
Yeah, so look, I think you're right. The statute of limitations is an obstacle, but I think you are double and triple right about, the fact that at noon on the 20th of January, Donald Trump becomes president. And, the only thing we're hearing out of him and his inner circle and the people he's nominated is going after their political enemies, right? And Matt Gaetz is a lot of things, but he is not a political enemy of Donald Trump. So presumably he is not on the list of people who they are interested in focusing on. They're too busy trying to figure out how to go after, Liz Cheney, right? How to go after people who were doing their job on the January 6th committee. So I don't hold out much hope that a Department of Justice under Donald Trump is going to dispense equal justice under the law. I don't think it's going to look to prosecute any crimes against Republicans, whether it's Matt Gaetz or, frankly, anyone else. And Ron DeSantis sort of speaks for himself. Ron DeSantis is as partisan a governor as they come, and so I wouldn't count on that. And look, I think we're just entering into an era here that you and I have talked about before that I hope everyone is prepared for, in which we're not going to be waking up every day and saying, where is Merrick Garland, and why isn't he doing more? We're going to be waking up every day and saying Kash Patel and Pam Bondi are doing what Donald Trump has expected them to be doing.
Is there the possibility that a district attorney in Florida, and very much in the same way that Fani Willis decided to prosecute Donald Trump, probably against the wishes or without any support from Republican leadership in Georgia, but is there any way that a district attorney in Florida could take up this case if they wanted to try and prosecute Matt Gaetz, given the release of this ethics committee report?
I mean, look, to the extent all the conduct took place in Florida, sure, there may be a DA here or there who looks at it. If any of the conduct took place outside of Florida, by the way, which is why I draw that distinction, there may be DAs or AGs in other states. I don't know that any of the conduct did take place outside of Florida, but I think, that would be something that you might see some folks explore, again, subject to statute of limitations. The issue with the DAs in Florida, though, is we have seen interference efforts before by the DeSantis administration to try to replace local prosecutors who they don't like, who are doing things they don't like. So look, I don't hold out hope that we are going to see a criminal prosecution involving Matt Gaetz. I just don't think that is going to be in the cards. I think that there was an opportunity perhaps for that when the Department of Justice was looking at it. They decided not to bring charges for whatever reasons. They didn't bring charges, and here we are. I think the thing we ought to focus on is that this hopefully should spell the end of Matt Gaetz's political career, although in the era of Donald Trump, maybe this is actually a calling card to an ambassadorship someplace.
Now, Gaetz tried to sue for a last-minute restraining order and a temporary injunction to block this report's release. He obviously wasn't successful. The report came out. Does he have any jurisdiction over Congress's actions, specifically considering he's not even a member of Congress right now? Like, is this any different from me trying to sue Congress to block them from releasing a taxpayer-funded report?
Yeah, no, he has no jurisdiction. Even if you're in Congress, he'd have no jurisdiction. The fact is, Congress can decide to release whatever documents it wants to, and there's really nothing anyone can do, including a member of Congress or certainly a former member of Congress. They enjoy wide latitude as a co-equal branch of government, at least when they want to act as a co-equal branch of government, when they're not looking to just do the bidding of Donald Trump and hand themselves over control to Elon Musk. But in addition to that, and something that has been sometimes lost in some of the Liz Cheney coverage, they enjoy broad immunity, so-called speech or debate immunity for things that they do. So, there was talk when Republicans were stonewalling this report that, some Democrat might release it on the House floor for that reason. Obviously, that didn't become necessary. Ultimately, it looks like there was a vote, but no one should let the Republicans off the hook here for delaying this the way they did.
Marc, what does it say that after years of Republicans beating their chests about being the party of protecting the kids, the party of family values, that Trump tried to elevate Matt Gaetz, who is accused of statutory rape, of illicit drug use, of arranging for his chief of staff to assist a woman with whom he engaged in sexual activity, in obtaining a passport by falsely indicating that she was a constituent of his. What does it say that they tried to elevate this guy to the top law enforcement official position in the United States of America?
It shows that Donald Trump cares only about one thing when it comes to the Department of Justice and the FBI. He wants people who are 100% loyal to him, who will do whatever he wants in terms of going after his enemies and protecting his friends. And so what it tells you is that Matt Gaetz was a person that Donald Trump would fit that bill. But more broadly, what it says about the Senate Republicans, and I hope everyone goes back now. And looks at the comments of Senate Republicans about Matt Gaetz. Every one of those Senate Republicans who indicated, yeah, they were open to voting for Matt Gaetz. Yeah, he seemed fine to them. They should all have to answer for this report. And by the way, don't let them get away with I didn't know what was in it. Bullshit. They didn't know precisely what was in it, but there's nothing that's come out in this report that, by the way, has not been widely understood or circulated in Washington, D.C. as likely in this report. And so the basic contours of who they were supporting were known, and the only difference is that Matt Gaetz dropped out, and that's why they will now act shocked and appalled. The fact is, if Matt Gaetz was still Donald Trump's guy for the attorney generalship, they would all be finding a way to say, well, I haven't read the report. They'd start with that, right? I haven't read the report. Then they'd move to, these are still allegations. Right. We haven't heard from these people, right? All of the stuff that you're hearing in other contexts, we would be hearing here. So just understand that Republicans are going to do whatever Donald Trump tells him to do. And that is what we're in for the next 4 years.
I also don't want to let Mike Johnson off the hook because, it was Mike Johnson himself who tried to bury this report into Gaetz by pressuring the ethics committee not to release it. So what does it say about the guy who's currently leading the Republicans in the House? It's not just the Senate, but even the guy who's leading the Republicans in the House who tried to help Matt Gaetz, knowing full well that these were the contours of what we were looking at with this report, and what we assumed would be in it was largely correct.
Right. So let's start with the Republican members of the House Ethics Committee, because they knew more than the contours. They knew precisely what was in the report when they originally blocked it. Then we can move to Mike Johnson and the House Republican leadership, who, frankly, I'd be surprised if they didn't know more than just the contours of what was in that report when they were blocking it. Right. And so, Mike Johnson has proven himself a spineless, weak speaker. I mean, those are not my words. Those are actually the words or the sentiments expressed by many, many Republicans on his right wing. And he has proven himself to have no principle and be willing to do whatever it is that Donald Trump wants. And the most precious and delicious part of all of this is that even after he has shown spineless loyalty to Donald Trump, his speakership still hangs by a thread as we head into the beginning of January. Why? Because when Donald Trump asked for something that Mike Johnson actually couldn't even do, which was to raise the debt ceiling as part of the continuing resolution, Mike Johnson failed to do that. And for that, he may be unceremoniously kicked to the curb. And to that, I say good riddance if he does. He deserves every last ounce of the scorn that he will get.
Well, for the glaring lack of integrity and courage that's being shown by these Republicans, I think that you and the team over at Democracy Docket make up for it tenfold in the reporting and the coverage that you give. So for folks who are watching right now, if you want to support independent media, if you want to support Marc and his team, please make sure to sign up for Democracy Docket. I'll put the link right here on the screen and also in the post description of this video. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
I'm Marc Elias.
This is Democracy Watch.